Welcome to the Boston Barrister, Kevin Patrick Seaver, bringing you insights about your family and the world.
Welcome to the Boston Barrister. My name is Kevin Patrick Seaver, located, of course, in Boston, Massachusetts. This week is all about AMA, Ask Me Anything, and it's going to focus in on divorce questions that I have recently received and commonly asked. So I wanted to start there because I want to be able to touch out to everyone these questions that are burning in people's minds and are asked and re-asked. So I want to answer them for you. If you've got a question, ask me anything. Do a selfie and ask me the question. Send it to me. My email address is kevinseaver@yahoo.com. My first name is Kevin, Kevin, all lowercase, no spaces. My last name is Seaver, spelled S as in Sam, E as in elephant, A as in apple, V as in Victor, E as in elephant, R as in Robert. At Yahoo, that's YAHOO.com. KevinSeaver@yahoo.com, no spaces, all lowercase. Send me a selfie with your question. We will interact and send you back an answer, and we'll do a podcast. You want to be famous? Come on board. Be part of the Boston Barrister. The first question I have on Ask Me Anything is a question from Shirley, not a real name. Privacy and confidentiality is being protected here. And if you send me in a video, I will block your face if you want me to. And we'll tweak your voice. Again, privacy, confidentiality is very important, the attorney-client privilege. But the question I have this week from Shirley is, how long do I have to live in Massachusetts before I can file for divorce? Shirley, unfortunately, was going through a bad time. And so she had moved to Massachusetts within the last 3 months. Shirley, you're not allowed to file for divorce in Massachusetts and take advantage of the probate and family court until you've lived here for over 1 year consecutively. Shirley asked me another question, and it was a great question. Shirley asked tremendous questions. These are questions I get all the time. Why do they have me wait a year to live in Massachusetts to be able to go into probate and family court and use that court? Another great question by Shirley. The reason the Commonwealth of Massachusetts makes you wait 1 year is so that couple different answers. One, you're not forum shop looking for the best venue to file your divorce where it's going to help you and hurt the other side. And that happens vice versa too, by the way. The other thing is that when you take advantage of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts' services, and that not only includes the probate and family court, which is the government, and the government pays for this through what? People's taxes. So if you're here for a year, it means you're probably going to stay here and you pay taxes, which pays for not only the probate and family court and the judges and the clerks and the probation officers and the court officers and all the administrative staff and on and on and on. But you're also utilizing the police, which taxpayers pay for. You're also utilizing the fire department, which we hope you never have to use, nor the police. But these are services that are governmental in nature. And there's other governmental services you take advantage of when you live in the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I believe that when you live here, you should have the burden of paying taxes as a taxpayer, which gives you the benefit of being able to use the services in our state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the next question is, how do I prove that I've lived here for 1 year? How you prove you lived here in Massachusetts for over 1 year is different ways. Number one, you probably got a driver's license. So when do you get that driver's license? It should be dated. And what you do is you use that, make a copy of it for proof. Number two, where you living? You either own the house, show when you got the mortgage, or number two, you want to show that you have a lease and that you have a lease for a year. And you get last year's lease to show you've been here for a year. And then you get this year's lease, which shows you're still continuously living in Massachusetts. The third thing is you get a passport. Should have your address on there. Your address will show where you've been living. Passport should be dated. The fourth way you do it is get an electric bill or a cable bill for your TV or your internet bill and all types of bills. And you can show the dates of them. And that's another way. Last but not least, you do an affidavit. I, Kevin Patrick Seaver, living at X, Y, and Z address, have been living here since blah, blah, blah. Under the pains and penalties of perjury, you go have it signed and you have it notarized. Much more powerful. The third question Shirley had, again, not a real name, protect her for privacy and confidentiality, was, how do I serve my ex who lives out of state? How you serve your ex out of state is simple. You got to give them notice. Shirley, you're filing for divorce in Massachusetts. You got to give notice to the other side. That's what's called due process. So what is due process? Due process means you give opposing party notice, which means you're telling them, hey, I'm getting divorced. And therefore, I'm putting you on notice, I'm getting divorced. And you're being served, and you have 20 days to answer my complaint in Massachusetts. Now, that begs more questions from Shirley. She said, Attorney Seaver, so how do I serve someone who's living out of state of Massachusetts with notice of the divorce? How you serve someone living out of the state of Massachusetts by divorce is by giving them just like you would in state. But you want to also check the rules of the state they're living in. For example, in this case, it was Florida. So you look up the Florida rules. How do you give notice in a domestic relations situation? And I would guide and guide this notice by applying that as well as Massachusetts rules. So in Massachusetts, you want to have it served by a sheriff. Then Shirley asked me the question, so if I serve it by sheriff, but he ducks the sheriff, what then? Well, when a party is not acting in good faith, will not accept notice from a sheriff, then the sheriff can leave the form at the last known address. But also, you want to take that a step further. You want to get correspondence from the sheriff and maybe even ask the sheriff to sign an affidavit that they did A, B, and C and left it at the last address, and they made good faith efforts and they believe that this X is dodging them. Then Shirley asked me, what else can I do besides that, Attorney Seaver? What other steps can you take to give notice when an opposing side, your ex, lives out of state, such as Florida? What you want to do is you want to exhaust all the notice requirements. And this may be overkill, but I always suggest it because it's better to have than not have. Because remember now, at some point in time, you're going to have to go in front of a judge. The judge is going to ask, well, what did you do? And so you want to say, Judge, I did this, and this. Let's go through the this, and this that you should do. Number one, get a sheriff, have the sheriff go and serve the complaint out of state, the out of state ex-spouse to be. And now the sheriff can leave that notice at the last known address, and you get that type of information from the sheriff. Then the next thing you want to do, you can go to the court, motion to court, and present to the judge that my ex has done A, B, and C. We feel as though they're dodging. I left it at the last known address. You next want to send it by internet, which would be by email. But the other side can say, well, I didn't get it. I didn't get your email. I've got a different email address. So there's all a bunch of nonsense there too, but I still would do it. And then what you do is you send it first class and certified mail to the last known address. I'd go in with your certified copy when you go to see the judge. And then you make a motion to the court and ask them to publish in the local newspaper that would be applicable to where this ex-to-be spouse lives. So for example, you want to pick a major newspaper that would cover that area and ask the court how many times they want you to run it and do that. And then come back with all that proof, the sheriff's notice, your email, your certified and first-class mail letter to them, as well as the publication, the motion granted by the judge. Then you've got 5 things to show that you've used good faith to try and get this person served. Of course, Shirley had more questions, and they were good questions, Shirley. And she asked me, okay, so now I've done the complaint, I've given notice, what else do I have to do? And so I told her, I said, Shirley, you sit back, you kick back, and when the 20 days goes by and he hasn't answered, then you have to go back into court and show this to the court. Now, with that said also, what you want to do is that you want to make sure that before you start on this journey, always try to reach out to the ex. And I always try to do it by telling them that we can work this out. Everybody goes home happy. Because if they're living apart and she's in Massachusetts and he's in Florida, they're not going to meet up with each other ever again. They're not going to have any coincidental meetings. Too many miles, too much space, too much air miles there, right? So having said that, you got this situation where it's in both parties' interest to get divorced. So you want to seek an uncontested divorce, which can go through the courts much faster, make it amicable, figure out what you have for property, visitation for children, if there is any, alimony is going to be waived or not, child support, so forth and so on. You want to work it out. You want to make sure the person in Florida doesn't have to come up for a hearing. So work that out. Work it out with the court saying, hey, my ex is in Florida. We're asking for it to be by Zoom. Okay, and that way you don't have to spend money to travel to Massachusetts back and forth. You do the uncontested. Once you've got all the paperwork filed in court, all you have to do, once the judge agrees to it, that all the paperwork's fine, you wait 120 days for what's called the Nisi period. So what is the Nisi period? Well, the Nisi period is a time where the courts want to let time go by to see if you truly do want to get divorced. And in some cases, I know it's going to sound crazy, but some cases people get back together again and they dissolve the divorce. So you want to make sure the Nisi period passes is how many days in Massachusetts for the Nisi period for an uncontested divorce. The time of how many days on a Nisi period in Massachusetts in an uncontested divorce is 120 days. What happens at the end of that 120 days in a Nisi period when a divorce uncontested has been filed in Massachusetts? At the end of that Nisi period, 120 days, and there's no reconciliation between the parties, the spouses, then the Nisi period is signed off on and you become, by the courts, divorced. And that's, everybody goes home happy. Everybody can move on. You can go find your richly deserved happiness. And that's what the courts want to do. They want to separate you. They want to make sure that everybody is separated. And now you can go on and hopefully find great, well-deserved, richly deserved happiness in your life. Till next time.